Okay, out of the myriad of things that I thought I could talk about with this subject that we're about to go in right here, I thought I would bring up some esoteric knowledge that not a lot of people know and try to kind of run through a series of them. I don't know how long you've been with the channel or if you've gone back and looked at some of my older videos, but quite often I still leave something out, or I'll tell you that there's other layers to it, and here's one more layer to this situation that's here. But I'll also unpeel the onion real quick for you. Well, not real quick, you know me. There are many stories in the Bible. It can be linked to truth and fact, but there are other ones that actually have esoteric knowledge. It's basically like Aesop's fables or something along that line. And in doing so, it's supposed to leave you with that parable of thought. You're supposed to figure it out. Everybody figures it out. The preacher kind of tells you what to think about that situation, but sometimes in ancient times there was different things that went along with this that in a modern time are not known about. It's been kind of lost, whether on purpose or for reason, or just on the fact that they wanted it to go away for one reason or another. Basic esoteric knowledge has faded away. This character of Jesus that we have has a lot of esoteric knowledge built around him. I talked, a year and a half ago, right after Christmas, we started going through the truth and reality of Armageddon and so on. And I talked about the Flavian signature and how Jesus's campaign really echoes Titus's campaign coming into the Romans and so on. Titus's father's Vespasian. Vespa is a wasp, and this wasp of the Old Testament at the end of it, which does the sweep through and sets up the thing that they said for the new world that they were entering, is that man, and he became a god, as all the Greek overlord emperors did, and just like the rulers of Egypt became a god man, much like you would think of as Gilgamesh being a demigod, of being a god man. And indeed Jesus, like many people, became deified after passing. He wasn't really seen by everybody to be a god until after his passing. Even in the book, it tells you that way, that people just still didn't believe, and doubting Thomas and all of these situations, right? Because there could be some doubt to it. Why would there be so much doubt? Well, it's because a lot of this same exact story everybody already knew. And so for it to come out and play out like it does seems kind of odd. And people have made all kinds of apologetics, if you will, towards many situations attached to it. But it's a cycle, just like the ball cycle and the different cycles through all the religions that we've talked about through the Middle East and so on, and Proto-Europeans. It all linked up the same. And one thing I'll interject here that's kind of odd is that the Greeks talked about how these Proto-European type people and these Ethiopians, they're not the people that live in Abyssinia today. You know, they were in the Iliad and the Odyssey and up way north and everything. They're really farmers, you know, sunburnt people. We'd call it rednecks today in some type of joking fashion. It wasn't the same symbology. But these people, he said, they didn't worship all of the gods and have a huge pantheon, it seemed. They worshipped what was the equivalent of Zeus, and they worshipped the equivalent of what was Dionysus. Or, it's said as Osiris. A lot of people have made that other equation too, and I've even made a previous video on that equation and who Dionysus, Osiris, and all these people are mimics of, are echoes of through time, that each person or each group of people had already gone through in the past. And the first one that we can find that these people had done it was the Sumerians. They had a Dumuzi and an Nana, and it's really a secondary form of the tale, but after their Taitamanaki, if you will, and it comes down through the tale of Tiamat, Bahamut, and the whole thing, the way it breaks down, the earth's created, and the shell, and everything that actually is the thing that the Bible works off of as an idea, and then says it, well, it's more like this, which is odd because the Greeks writing at that time had already figured out that it wasn't like that. So people were supposed to figure this out long ago, and then figure out the whole thing about Titus and everything too, and that Armageddon's already happened in 73 AD, exactly whenever Jesus said. And in fact, it's almost to the day, or plays out that way in the book, and people just don't pay attention. But I guess that's for another video. I'm trying to stay on this symbology that we have up here. A lot of the comparative religions would show you that this Jesus on a cross is not unique even. For Odin nailed himself to a tree, gave himself up, like Jesus, same type situation. Where, make no mistake about it, Jesus gave himself up for this situation. And put himself on a tree. In fact, I've got a video where in the Bible, 2 places, it tells you that Jesus was nailed to a tree in Egypt. Which is quite strange if you find it alone. But if you already know the esoteric knowledge, it becomes something else. I found it in a wishy-washy way in the in-between, but it all worked out a little. It's taken me a while to even preface this situation, but hopefully we're somewhere together on this. But in the Dumuzi tale, there was a sacrifice given, and well, where it was Inanna and so on, but that brings about spring, and it flip-flops back and forth, and her return to spring brings the flowers. April's showers bring May flowers. We still have that today, and the maypole, and all these things came out of all this esoteric old knowledge. The rites of spring, because it's whenever the earth gets reborn. And this Jesus character went through a reborn situation too, and this was something that mankind all over the Middle East had been searching for since time immemorial. And one of the very first writings of all, or the very first epic that we ever find either, is Gilgamesh, and you can see this desperate quest. He's drawn by it. It's the thing behind the quest. And he ends up failing. He can't become a god because he's part mortal, and so mortals are set to die. In fact, they give him the example of Enkidu. But wrapped inside of that is another tale of a people that weren't very advanced, that they met and went through, and something bad that had happened long ago, but then the other people had been brought up to that level also. But that's for another video. In all, or most of, these religions that all have a common stemming from each one, They used to take people to a common hill or site, and it was usually a high place, and they would be sacrificed to the gods in one way or another through time. And I'm going back tens of thousands of years that we can even show, and I've shown in other videos, where they would let birds fly and take the people up into heaven. And whenever you see Sumerian statues and all these other ones and these gods that have wings, it's the same thing as an angel. In fact, it's where that concept comes from, and it's one of the animistic things that actually comes through time. And we can say, well, in our religion we don't have that people with bird heads and reborn God, so he's got that god of the desert head on him and all that weird shit. Oh yeah, well, look at angels, because they really stem from that earliest of times. There was other times that they were burnt by fire too, and so that is recreated in the stories that keep getting echoed in the Bible and talk about the earth, which the earth is a symbol for the man and humanity and so on. Very many times over and over in the Bible you can see it. And let's see if I can bring about layers here and some more esoteric knowledge to the concept. All these people seem to have another common idea, that you were going up into the stars, it's where heaven was, and that there would be this starship type of place, whether it be in the clouds itself or farther and higher up through the stratosphere, and you would be living in ease and perpetualness, almost like if you ever watch Star Trek whenever you're a kid and they give that lady a pill and she all of a sudden jumps up and runs down the hallway, and they're like, hey, trying to catch her, and they can't. That you're going to have that young pill that happened, that Gilgamesh looked for in the way back machine, that everybody had been searching for. And because one man here can do it, it's possible for you to do it too. But you have to do something that ends up making it like he was, where your heart is, like in the Egyptians, as light as a feather, and so on. We think of these ideas of Buddha and all these other concepts, but these people are like prophets, if you will. And prophets are always helping something, which in the Bible is conspicuously, they end up with this problem, there's this guy with the answer, and so on, and it goes. And it echoes too. You see forms of the same story keep repeating and echoing too. But in doing so, a story unfolds, and it also seems very familiar to you because you've heard something kind of like this before if you've been paying attention in the Bible, and they just run through it. But people used to believe that you became a star, that they're most special of people, and it's almost like the community would vote for the situation and you would become a star, and they would name a star after you, and then as things came around and you would become part of a story. And everybody remembered it because of that star that's all onto it too. Some of these stars have lost their name over time or gotten new names. A lot of the zodiac and all those concepts are here. In fact, a lot of the other 40 constellations or more that we had, and selective stars too, by the way, were all named after people, and some of them kept their name even though it changed. Like I just recently showed in the Egyptians, having this idea with Perseus and Medusa's head, and then that is a demon star. It's the demon head star, and it used to blink, and then the idea of Medusa and her eyes, and it all goes together. Conspicuously makes you realize that they probably knew of each other's ideas, but they were making it fit to their own concepts. But you could become a star. Nowadays, when we think of becoming a star, it becomes something totally different, but a star is remembered forever, and that's why we give it that idea. Somebody that becomes not only just known or have their moment in the sun, as we call it, which looks like what's going on here, but they become a star, and then you know about them forever. We could just start naming movie stars that are famous from America and all that stuff, from the Wayback Machine, way back to even black and white days up, and you know who we're talking about. Even through time, special people, you know their names. It's because people talk about history a lot, but that's almost inbred into our civilization, the whole concept. We basically lost a lot of the truth of everything through the Greeks and then the Romans and the flip-flop that happened after it. And the esoteric knowledge got twisted into, no, you can't know about that. So here's some other esoteric knowledge that goes along with this. Some people know of this concept, but the whole idea